Wrestlebread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee here, and this is episode 893 of the Wrestlebread Podcast. I can't believe that I'm this close to episode 100, and I have something special. I have a few things planned for episode 93. So I hope everyone had a good week. We had the NFL playoffs this past weekend, and it's very interesting. I always, figured that there's always going to be a bit of an upset. I would have never had known that it would be the Cleveland Browns. I mean, I had the idea that the Cleveland Browns was going to win, but with everything going on as far as, with COVID, they don't have, and injuries, they don't have their coaching staff, they don't have, certain key players. And I figured it's the Browns. They're going to lose. And I figured that Big Ben and the Steelers were going to win. But boy, was I so damn wrong. The first play, when it was the botch snap and it went into the end zone and the Browns caught a touchdown, my jaw dropped. And then from there, it was like a damn massacre. So congrats to the Cleveland Browns, all the Cleveland Browns fans out there. I think the stat is that Cleveland Browns hasn't won a playoff in about 16 years or something like that. So congrats to them. All the power. What else happened? I mean, this is the first year where we had the 6 playoffs games. And so all day Saturday was football and all day Sunday was football. And I barely got anything done because I love, sitting down and watching the playoffs, stuff like that. So I didn't get anything done this weekend because I completely forgot that it was 6-6. Like I seen the matches, I seen the matches and everything like coming up, but it didn't click that it was 6 games and it was all day on Saturday and all day on Sunday. So, wow. But yeah, the playoffs was pretty crazy. So, all the NFL fans out there, hopefully you had a good weekend. We have another interesting weekend as well. Of course, a lot of things also happening outside of the playoffs. The Cowboys hired, I forgot who they hired. Damn. Mike Quinn, I think it was, for defensive coordinator. And it looks like the Eagles may be looking at our offensive coordinator and whatever. And there was a lot of cuts from Black Friday from last week. So, just off and on. And I hope everyone had a good weekend. We had a very good week as far as wrestling. We had AEW, New Year's Smash, Night 2. We also had an NXT Live, which featured the Dusty Rhodes Classic, the first round. We got 3 matches this week. We're starting the Dusty Rhodes Women's Classic next week, and they let us know some teams, but they didn't really tell us what the brackets were. So we'll find out what the brackets are next week. And then we also had a Raw that was very interesting. But let me start off with some news. So first things first, apparently Lita had mentioned on her stream that she did not want to do the live sex celebration. Of course, those of us who remember seeing that live, I was kind of shocked. And of course, everybody slowed down videos, still images and things like that of what could have been some bit of exposure. But according to Lita, she didn't want to do it. And her, John Cena, I think Edge, and someone else all went to Vince McMahon to try to convince him not to do the segment, but he still went through with it. And a lot of people are like shocked and surprised, stuff like that. I'm not shocked, to be honest. Vince McMahon is a bit of a sleazeball. We all know that he's a sleazeball, so I'm not surprised that he sat there and pulled off something like that. I'm sure that like I always say, I'm sure he done a lot worse back in around those times, because a lot of his storylines was him having affairs with his wife. So whoever was the hottest new recruit that WWE brought in, he was kissing them and stuff like that. I remember he had Trish Stratus crawling around and barking like a dog. And I forgot who else. He had an affair storyline with her. He also had another affair storyline with someone else. And this is the same guy that Stephanie McMahon also revealed wanted to do an incest angle between, I think it was between her and Shane or her and Vince. So I'm not exactly surprised about it. But yeah, people are surprised about it, but I'm not. I'm not. Vince McMahon is a sleazeball. He's always going to be a sleazeball. He's less of a sleazeball now because he's a little older, but he's always going to be that sleazeball. Let's see. So also on that note, JR mentioned on his podcast that he heard that WWE is looking to do more romance angles, and which could explain what is going on between Ric Flair and Lacey Evans. Also with Raw, PW Insider mentioned that Asuka, Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin, Angel Garza, Ricochet, Nikki Cross were all backstage on Monday night, but of course they weren't used. And there has been rumors that, of course, with Drew McIntyre announced that he had COVID. Not only that, he actually spoke on camera about his diagnosis and mentioned for people to wear a mask, which was a first that we have seen so far since the whole pandemic has started. WWE normally is very hush about who has COVID and things like that. And also, another rumor with Raw is that this week's episode of Raw was reportedly written almost on the fly. Pretty much, I think I read that it was completed almost an hour beforehand. And so there were, that's why we saw people working multiple matches and multiple segments and stuff like that. Look, as a professional procrastinator that was in college, there were plenty of times where I had to finish writing things down to the last minute. Now, I used to go to DeVry, and the way DeVry works online is you have until midnight Mountain Time to finish whatever your homework is, which is 2 a.m., where I'm at Eastern Standard Time. And I would finish things at 1:59 in the morning. And there was times that I waited to the last day. I had like a 3-page essay I think I had to finish, and I waited to the last day. And let me tell you, when you wait until the last day, or if your boss in this instance tell you to rewrite a whole script for a 3-hour show, and you finish it an hour before the show actually starts, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. But yeah, I completely understand of having to write things on the fly, where you sit there and put in filler words and stuff like that. And that's why Raw has been the way it's been. Raw had some good segments, but it overall is just like, it wasn't really that good. And we can clearly see why, because the scripts are being torn up and people are have to rewrite whole segments literally until the last minute. And whenever that happens, there are people you're forgetting about. For example, Asuka. I don't know, because with Drew McIntyre having COVID, if, there are numerous people who possibly had got COVID as well. And because Drew McIntyre had COVID, a lot of people weren't sure if they were still going to go through with his matchup with Goldberg, and I knew they were, because I was like, is that he has 2 weeks. They're going to give him the 2 weeks. They're going to test him. He'll probably be fine because he seemed like he didn't really have any serious symptoms from when he spoke on TV. Seems like he probably was asymptomatic and they caught it if they did the antibodies test. So I'm sure that, I knew they were going to go through with the match, and they announced it on Raw that the match will still go on, and it is what it is. But going into AEW news, Chris Jericho revealed that he actually had COVID around September. Now I'm a little confused at how AEW does their things, because I know with Raw they do their shows live, but I'm hearing with AEW they actually tape the shows, so it's very unclear if Chris Jericho had caught COVID and then was out and was able to miss tapings, or if he actually was at a taping. I didn't really get a chance to really do enough research on his diagnosis to see if he actually, knew he was sick, but it seemed like he was asymptomatic as well. Whereas though with Matt Jackson, I think it was, who caught COVID and he was actually really sick. And from what I've read, he didn't show any symptoms until he got home. So he wasn't sure if he caught it from the tapings or from the airport or something like that. Because we still don't know what COVID is all about. I feel like we're all guessing on the fly. So he doesn't know exactly where he caught it from. He could have spread it. He could have not spread it. And there's two different schools when it comes to this. There are people who are very upset about with AEW the way things are going on. There's people who are upset about WWE the way things are going on. Um, you know, I look at it, it's the same thing with the NFL. And except for NBA, I believe NBA had the bubble. But it's the same thing with NFL. NFL, they test whenever and stuff like that. The um, football is being played, without masks. I mean, they have the helmets on and stuff like that. But they're still in close proximity. They're less than 6 feet from each other. You're playing football for an hour versus, wrestling for about 10 minutes or so. Well, not even an hour. Yes, 60 minutes of football. Whereas though with wrestling, it's about 8-10 minutes or something like that. And so you can catch COVID, truthfully, with wrestling as you would with the NFL. So my view is it is what it is. This COVID thing isn't going to go away anytime soon. Even though we got this damn vaccine, people aren't going to take the vaccine. And we have a shortage of vaccines right now. There's not enough vaccines to even vaccinate all the nurses and the doctors from what I read. So I just hope everyone just stays safe. Um, I was an essential worker. Trust me. We were told to wear masks and try to stay 6 feet away, which you really cannot do when you're an essential worker. I mean, you'll have customers come up to your face or walk in without a mask and start talking to you like everything is all good and well. And then you have the people who don't believe that anything is going on and feel as though that they can definitely invade your private space. And then it's the traveling and stuff like that. It's a lot. It's too much going on. Um, I mean, it is best to try your best to stay safe and everything like that, but the way that we're all set up, everyone going to the market, stuff like that, it's going to spread. And I don't know. I would love for the pandemic to be over so we can go back to normal things. High fiving and hugging and stuff. Is someone who I haven't seen in a long time, and we had to do that stupid ass elbow tap because I couldn't hug them. So I'm just ready to get back to some type of normalcy. I want to go to a beach again. I would like to travel, stuff like that. So, that's my piece on all of this. So, getting into the recaps, let's start off with Raw. That was pretty much written and finished an hour from now. Now, Triple H was announced to be on Raw, which I wasn't too shocked because of course they lost Drew McIntyre, so they had to kind of give people a reason to tune in, which they did with Triple H. Triple H comes out. He was going to talk and everything, but of course Randy Orton comes out and it was a very interesting situation. He started to, he wanted Triple H to face him in the ring, and I was like, for what? Um, but Triple H at first said no, and then of course Randy Orton started push buttons. Of course, brought up the fact that Triple H's balls is in Stephanie McMahon's purse, and then Triple H punches him. Randy Orton says, "I think that means yes." To all the people who haven't been watching wrestling for that long, this matchup probably have been exciting. For someone who have watched wrestling for decades and have seen Triple H versus Randy Orton as much as we've seen Randy Orton versus John Cena, I was like, for what? This them fighting each other really doesn't do anything much except for now. Triple H. Well, no, yeah, I think he fought Randy Orton not too long ago. So it's like, what's the point? We have Legend Killer, the new Legend Killer, self-hating Randy Orton going against Triple H, who, as we saw, didn't even wear his gear. Don't know if he was out of shape or anything like that. Doesn't really look like it from his suits and stuff. But the feud really wasn't going to do anything for me. And so I really didn't understand why they were going to fight. But I was like, okay, I'll take it. Yeah, so then after that, we had Charlotte Flair versus Lacey Evans. And Charlotte Flair had mentioned that Ric Flair was banned from ringside, that he wasn't there and stuff like that. And then, as the match goes on, Ric Flair comes out and he actually helped Lacey Evans. Charlotte had Lacey pinned. He put Lacey's foot on the rope and pointed to the referee that Lacey's foot was on the rope. And then he grabbed Charlotte's foot, and I think Charlotte was trying to suplex Lacey Evans into the ring. Lacey Evans fall onto Charlotte Flair, and Charlotte gets pinned 1, 2, 3. And Lacey Evans go over to Ric Flair. And I mean, this whole Lacey Evans and Ric Flair thing cracks me up. I guess it gives Ric Flair something to do. Bit of a different angle, it's going to be Charlotte versus her dad. But I was cracking up because you see when Ric Flair came out, he came out just strutting the limousine ride and everything like that. Just like, woo, I got me a young one now. But the thing that confuses me with this is that WWE has an issue with like thinking that fans forget things. When Lacey Evans was a face, when she was going against Sasha Banks and Bayley, they mentioned that Lacey Evans was married with a daughter and she was a family woman and stuff like that. But now that Lacey Evans is a heel, it's like, fuck that family, And it's just kind of, I just kind of shake my head with it because it doesn't make sense. Why introduce the kid and the husband if it's not going to matter, a few months from now because Lacey Evans is a heel. Now, I don't know if maybe they'll bring Lacey's daughter and husband back into this, but and then there was a tweet that was put out. Apparently, Andrade mentioned that he might be in Charlotte's corner. So I'm like, great. Now we're going to have Ric Flair in Lacey's corner, and then Charlotte, and then Andrade in Charlotte's corner. So I don't know where this is going, but as of right now, it doesn't make sense because Lacey Evans, as we all know, as WWE put on TV that she has a daughter and a husband. And then on top of that, the thing that also confuses me too is that, Asuka is being treated with this title reign the same way she was treated with her first title reign, which is where she's not on TV. Now, I don't know if this has to do with COVID or something like that, but she wasn't seen, wasn't heard, wasn't talked about. The main thing is Charlotte Flair and Lacey Evans. And this is what I meant when I was talking about as far as with Charlotte Flair, where she kind of like takes over with the Four Horsewomen. They kind of just take over things. And so we have Charlotte now. Now the main thing is Charlotte Flair and Lacey Evans. WWE, like I always say, has this thing where they cannot do multiple segments with the women, and so because now where all the concentration is on Charlotte, now Asuka has nothing to do, and she's the Raw Women's Champion. That part don't make any sense to me. After that, we had Jeff Hardy and Jackson Riker. This match was like, you know, this was nothing but to build up Elias and Jackson. And Jackson has a cool look, but yeah, not really feeling it. So then after that, we had the Ms and Morrison versus Sheamus and Keithley. This matchup kind of confused me because Sheamus and Keithley were, doing pretty good as a tag team. And then after they won, they went and hugged. And I don't know if I missed something or what. But I had looked away, and next thing I know, we come back from break, and it's Keith Lee versus Sheamus. So I thought they were being a pretty good tag team, but it looks like no. It looks like no. We're going right back into it. There was a spot though during the match where Keith Lee had threw Morrison into the corner, and he went and crushed him, and the top rope snapped. It looked like it was a planned spot. Don't look like it was accidental. WWE is very famous for these spots of the ring crashing and stuff like that. I guess they're doing it to show how tough Keith Lee is because they really want to put him over as a powerhouse versus, him being more doing the high flying spots and stuff like that he normally did in NXT. And I don't know why it took me so long to realize that Keith Lee has shaved his face. Because I was looking at his face and I was like, he looks a bit weird. And I just happened to watch, I had watched the Royal Rumble 2020 match recently. And I saw Keith Lee come out and I'm like, oh, that's right. He had facial hair. That's why he looks a bit weird to me. But it took me, a while, but I'm finally here. I'm finally out of the rock, Keith Lee shaved his beard, and that's why he looked the way he does. But like I said, we had Keith Lee versus Sheamus afterwards. You know, it was kind of weird because they were a tag team 1 minute, and they were hugging, and they were happy and high-fiving, and the next thing you know, they're fighting each other. Whatever. Keith Lee won the match with the Spirit Bomb. And then afterwards, Keith Lee went to shake hands or fist bump or something like that with Sheamus, and then Sheamus hugged him instead. So, okay, it is what it is. So after that, we had Xavier Woods versus T-Bar. Xavier Woods Xavier Woods is by himself because Kofi Kingston had an injury. And I think it was with his jaw. He mentioned on social media that he'll be out. I think he's going to be out for about 4 weeks. So it looks like Xavier Woods is all by himself. Now, I still don't get what we're doing with Retribution. If Retribution is recruiting people or not, or if they're just, fighting each other. And I don't know what the end game is with Retribution, with the mask and the names. Mustafa Ali mentioned that he purposely did the mask and the names so that they can feel the way that he feels and feel judged for the way that they look and their names. But I don't know, okay, like you revealed it to us, we get it. So now what? Like what are we doing? What is the reason in words of Cardi B, what is the reason of this? It was a decent match. I mean, T-Bar, of course, is good in the ring. Xavier Woods is good in the ring as well. But I don't know where this is going. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? I heard that, Ali had did a good promo on Raw Talk, but I haven't been really watching Raw Talk. I haven't really watching Talking Smack or Smack Talk. I don't know what it's called now. I haven't watched any of the after show segments, so I've been missing a lot on the promo, especially with Paul Heyman. I heard from what I've seen and heard, Paul Heyman, of course, being Paul Heyman, definitely having some great segments. I did see on Twitter the segment with Paul Heyman and Apollo Crews, that he pretty much cut a promo to Apollo Crews similar to what he cut with Big E. But I don't know what we're doing with Retribution, really. My son, my son doesn't really watch wrestling. Like he was watching it when he was a little younger with John Cena and stuff like that, and he just knows the name AJ Styles. So he sees Retribution, and he sees T-Bar, and they show the segment. They show like the picture-in-picture, and they show T-Bar cutting the promo what he's going to do to Xavier Woods, and my son goes, "Okay, Bane, chill out," and I started cracking up from there. But that's what we're dealing with Retribution. I'm hoping that we get somewhere with Retribution, but I don't know. So after that, we get Bobby Lashley versus Riddle. This is for the United States Championship. To be quite honest, I kind of tuned out from this. But I did see the end where MVP was in the ring and Riddle called him out and challenged him to a match. And of course, MVP is in like a straight up suit with the church shoes on and everything like that. And so he decided to fight Riddle. And I was sitting there laughing because I was like, it looks like a dad trying to fight the ex-boyfriend of his daughter or something. But then, of course, Lashley interfered in that matchup and caused disqualification. So I don't know what we're doing with Riddle and the Hurt Business. If they're going to have Riddle join the Hurt Business and this turns into a whole other Owen Hart and the Nation of Domination. If you don't know what that is, look it up. The Nation of Domination was all black faction, and then Owen Hart joined it, and he did play. He was really good in the Nation Domination. Some people didn't like it, but I felt as though he kind of came into his own in the Nation Domination. Of course, because they were feuding against DX, he was referred to as the Nugget, and there's a whole story of why they mentioned that. And he had the intro of "Enough is enough, and I'm not going to take it anymore." It was pretty good. After that, we had Drew Gulak versus AJ Styles, which on paper, this should have been a pretty good match. But of course, what we got instead was a match that lasted for a few minutes. Really didn't do anything. And then we had Omos. I think his name is Omos. Almost like almost like Omos. Omos or Omas or something like that. There was this part where Drew Gulak was thrown to the outside, and you see Omos' foot, like he steps into the frame, and his foot is next to Drew Gulak's face, and Gulak's eyes get real big, and he looks up at Omos, and Styles brought him back into the ring, hit the phenomenal forearm, and that was it. And I was disappointed because we could have had a really good matchup. I mean, I feel as though this could have been very similar to AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan because Drew Gulak is a technical wrestler as well. But unfortunately, that's not what we got here. This was basically a short match just for Gulak to drop job to AJ Styles. And then after that, we had Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax versus Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose. This match was wasn't good at all. I love Shayna Baszler. I feel as though she could definitely have been the Ronda Rousey of the division, but like I said, I don't know what the angle is here. I'm guessing this is all to put over Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose, that we're doing Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax as the bullies, which is a storyline that WWE has burnt to the ground, set on fire, and burnt it again, and then buried it, and it's just too much. It looks like they're having a little bit of conflict with Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. Towards the end of the match, Nia, it looked like, was going to go for a move off the ropes, and Shayna tagged herself in and went for the Kufita clutch to win the match. And Nia Jax at first didn't look really happy, but she was just like, oh well, whatever. And then we get to the main event, Triple H versus Randy Orton. A match that would excite you if this is your first time seeing this match. But unfortunately for me, this was like the 1,000th time I've seen this match. And so I wasn't really that excited. I mean, Triple H kind of was very dominant at first. He was throwing Randy Orton around, he threw him into the steel steps. He also, slammed him onto the announce table, and then he went under the ring and grabbed the sledgehammer. And I was like, well, that was pretty quick. But as he was going up the steps, the lights started to go down, just like The Fiend. And then the cool shot, though, I give this to them, is that Triple H held up the sledgehammer, and the sledgehammer was on fire. I was like, that was really cool. And then the lights goes out, the lights come back on, and Triple H was gone. Don't know where the hell he went. Someone needs to put a missing poster up for him. Where are the milk cartons? We need to put his face on a couple of milk cartons because he was gone. And then they was playing this like very weird Firefly Funhouse theme, and Randy Orton was looking around. He turns around and we see Alexa Bliss. And Alexa Bliss, she puts her arm up under her chin, and we see on her hand, the side of her hand, it says pain. And then the camera angles, like the editing of this was very damn weird. But we see her shoot a fireball to Orton's face. So I don't know if we weren't supposed to see where the fireball came from or something. But we see the fireball hit Randy Orton in the face, and he starts, rolling around. That part lasted for a little bit too long of him rolling around, going, I was me like feeling a bit of a flashback. I was like fully expecting a fake eye or something like that to come out. I was fully expecting the Rey Mysterio thing to come back again. My issue with this was, why do we bring back Triple H if we weren't really doing anything with it? Like, I know it was to get people to watch Raw because Triple H is being announced, but they could have done this with anybody else. Truthfully, um, we could have had him. We could have had Randy Orton come out and challenge whoever, even if you wanted Triple H to come out to address the fact that Drew McIntyre is sick. I don't know. I felt like it was definitely a waste for it. Even especially the fact that we've seen Triple H and Randy Orton go against each other over and over and over again. I felt as though we could have actually used someone else and cut down the portion of the show where Randy Orton was rolling around holding his face, and actually have a pretty good match to show for it, versus what we got at the end after watching this show for almost 3 hours, that we kind of get this segment of with a very short match with Randy Orton and Triple H, and then just for Triple H to completely disappear, and the actual segment was for Alexa Bliss shooting him in the face. But this wasn't a good Raw. Like I said, being a professional procrastinator in college, I can clearly see that this was all done last minute. Definitely a lot of filler information. It wasn't good at all. It wasn't good at all. So going into AEW Dynamite. This show had its ups and downs. I would say it wasn't as good as NXT. I watched NXT earlier today. I normally watch AEW Dynamite live because they really crack down on their streams and stuff like that. So where I'm able to watch AEW Dynamite, I'm able to watch it live. Because once the show is over, it's as if Tony Khan himself goes through the internet and deletes any type of footage or any type of links that's showing AEW Dynamite. Because if you don't watch it on TV, or if you don't catch a stream, a good stream at the same time, you're not going to be able to watch AEW Dynamite at all. So with AEW Dynamite, we got the New Year's Smash night 2. And the card was pretty good. First, we started off with Pac versus Eddie Kingston. And I got to the middle of this matchup. So I wasn't able to really catch the beginning, but from what I've seen, this was a really good match. I mean, Pac, of course, is so good in the ring. Eddie Kingston is good in the ring as well. And so it's really good to see the Death Triangle back together again, going against Eddie Kingston with the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny in his corner as well. So I'm happy that the Bastard is back. Definitely, of course, he's being used a lot better than he was in WWE. Especially towards the later time, with this matchup, Pac was able to hit the Black Arrow and was able to win. And then afterwards, he applied the Brutalizer on Eddie Kingston, but the Butcher and Blade comes in to save Eddie Kingston. The Lucha Bros then went to attack the Butcher and the Blade, I think it was. But I did see Lance Archer had came out and he joined Ray and Pac in the end. So this was a very physical match, of course. I really got a lot of respect for Eddie Kingston. He's so good on the mic. But I'm happy that we kind of getting a more of a stable feud for him versus what we got with Jon Moxley, which was pretty much a one-off. And I felt as though his feud with Jon Moxley could have definitely been feud of the year had they had told us from the get-go that Jon Moxley really knows Eddie Kingston to the point that he promised his mom that he would take care of him, especially that fiery promo that we got the week of the matchup. Had we had gotten, that type of build-up the whole time, definitely would have been seen as feud of the year. But I am happy that Eddie Kingston kind of got something a bit stable for himself. Because normally it's him hanging out, and it's either the Lucha Bros or the Butcher and Blade that has the feuds. So for the front guy of his stable to actually get a feud, and it looks like this could be a feud that will last for a while with him versus the Death Triangle. Don't know what we're going to do with Lance Archer. So, he, of course, sided with Death Triangle. So I'm guessing, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be with him or if it's going to be Butcher and the Blade or something like that. But either way, this was a pretty good match. So after that, we get Chuck Taylor versus Miro. The stipulation for this was that if Chuck Taylor loses, then he would be Miro's butler for a month. Okay. This definitely gave me like Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression type vibes where it normally is the woman. If he loses, the woman becomes the servant for the winner. I got straight up vibes out of that. This showed Miro as being very dominant, which I'm all good for. Ever since he came to AEW, I feel as though his ability was kind of limited. Now he seems, of course, much more connected to his character in AEW, that he likes to play video games. He's best friends with Kip Sabian and everything like that. But he wasn't as dominant as he was when he was Rusev. And when he was Rusev, especially before when he was, the Russian, when he was with Lana and she was Russian at that time, he was very dominant, very menacing. And so I was kind of happy that we kind of got that back with Rusev in this matchup. Rusev wins the match, and we see Chuck Taylor being taken away by Miro, and Miro was staring down Cassidy after the match. So you kind of feel bad for Chuck Taylor. It definitely gave me like jail type vibes, the way he kind of dragged him off and he was staring at Orange Cassidy. But it looks like we're going to get some backstage segments of whatever Chuck Taylor has to do for Kip Sabian. Next up, we had a segment with the Inner Circle where they talk about their New Year's resolutions. And then they mentioned, Chris Jericho mentioned that him and MJF will be going after the AEW Tag Team Championships, which is very interesting because we have Santana Ortiz, who is the actual tag team of the Inner Circle. And Santana Ortiz was like, what the hell are you guys talking about? We're the tag team of the Inner Circle. And then Sammy Guevara jumps in and mentioned that him and Hager are the tag team. And he called Chris Jericho a tag team slut, which I cracked up at that one. Because you really think about it, he teamed up with a lot of damn people. He even accused Chris Jericho of trying to team up with Snoop Dogg, which Jericho admitted to. But my mind took me back to WWE. I didn't even think about AEW. My mind took me back to WWE, and I was like, yeah, he did team up with a lot of people in WWE. So of course, everyone is arguing about who is going to be the better tag team. So they decided to have a triple threat tag team match to determine the official tag team of the Inner Circle. And it'll be Chris Jericho and MJF versus Santana Ortiz versus Guevara and Hager. And so I'm hoping that Ortiz and Santana wins this match because they are very good as a tag team. And we haven't really seen them as a tag team since they feud with the Best Friends in that parking lot match, which was very, very good. I know that this match next week will be good because it is a lot of talent in that ring between all 6 men. But I'm hoping that Santana Ortiz wins this match. I have a feeling it could be Chris Jericho and MJF because it seems like MJF is doing nothing but breaking up the inner circle from within. Sammy Guevara was pointing it out and everything. But we'll see what happens with next week. So after that, we had the Elite versus Griff Garrison, Brian Pillman Jr., and Dammy Limelight. Don Callis was mentioning that everyone should get their own entrance because it seemed like it was going to be Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus them. And so, of course, Kenny Omega got his special introduction. Now, I didn't catch all that was being said, but I did hear that his last win was his 34th win of, that it was his 34th win of the year. And I think they mentioned him with Impact as well. And I completely forgot Impact has a pay-per-view this weekend. Kenny Omega is actually supposed to be fighting Rich Swann in a 6-man tag team match, I believe. It's Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers versus Rich Swann and Motor City Machine Guns. So, which sounds like a good match. I might check out Impact this weekend. I keep missing it. Truthfully, even with Kenny Omega hopping over there, I keep missing it. But back to this segment, Don Callis. I thought it was thought that he would introduce the Young Bucks, but instead he introduced the Good Brothers, and they cut to a segment of the Young Bucks and Tony Khan watching backstage with a look on their face. I don't know if we're gonna get a little bit of man in charge versus man in charge type of situation with Tony Khan and Don Callis. But this match, of course, this was going to be nothing but dominance from Omega and the Good Brothers. Omega and I think Omega wins this match, and then afterwards we got Jon Moxley, who comes out by his damn self, of course. The Good Brothers and Omega was standing in the middle of the ring, and Jon Moxley, of course, didn't care. Went right into in there and started fighting. At a certain point, the Lucha Bros come out as well. They start fighting the Good Brothers, and then people started coming out to separate everyone, and the Young Bucks come out to help out Jon Moxley, which was very interesting as well. And the commentators mentioned this, that, it seems like they are on Jon Moxley's side. But I do like the fact that the Young Bucks are put into a very uncomfortable situation where they have, their friend, part of the Elite, Kenny Omega, and then they have the Good Brothers, who they were formerly friends with, but we have Don Callis, of course, who is trying to rip apart the Elite. It looks like the storyline is Don Callis is going to try to rip apart the Elite because, the person who he groomed and trained all these years finally has the AEW championship. But this was a pretty good segment. They could have mentioned, though, that Rich Swann or the Motor City Machine Guns were facing them. I don't know if, as far as these crossovers, if it's limited to Kenny Omega and his people, or if people from, if other wrestlers from Impact can come over to AEW. That's what I'm interested in. Because I feel as though they could have definitely had Rich Swann or the Motor City Machine Guns come out and help out as well, instead of having the Lucha Bros come out and then have the Young Bucks come out and separate everyone. And then have the Young Bucks be put into a more uncomfortable position because it's people from Impact, but it's, his friend their friend Kenny Omega, but it's Don Callis and the Good Brothers. I think that would have put a bigger, another dynamic to the whole situation as well. After that, we had Jurassic Express versus FTR. I I can't take Marco Stunt seriously. Like, he's cute and all, small and everything. Remind me of like a chihuahua, not to sound mean or anything, but I can't take him seriously in these type of matchups. And there's a lot of people that get upset at people selling to him and stuff like that. And a lot of people make comparisons between him going against someone similar to like Rey Mysterio and the Big Show, whereas though, a lot of offense can be caught by surprise, or if you keep attacking for, like with Rey Mysterio, or on the Big Show, if you attack the legs, stuff like that, eventually the person will go down. But I don't know. Marco Stunt is not really doing anything. I don't know if maybe it's the fans, because he was popular with the fans, in the arena and things like that. So I don't know if maybe his popularity or his uniqueness is starting to wear down. Because people kind of forget the oh man, what was their names? Was it the Los Matadores in WWE? They had the guy, the little guy, the little bull. And I definitely remember with him, this may be a very bad comparison, but it's still on the point of, wrestlers selling for him. He would attack people and stuff like that. And there are times where people no sell it, just like they do at Marco Stunt. But there are times where, he would sit there and do moves, and he would, eventually he would take people down with their moveset, with his moveset. So it's just like, so, I don't get, maybe it's, I don't get Marco Stunt. I don't know who Marco Stunt is. Maybe that's what it is. Because with Jungle Boy, he's like Jungle Boy from either you can say Jungle Book or Mini Tarzan. I get Luchasaurus, he's the dinosaur, but I don't get Marco Stunt. I don't see how that mixes in with Jungle Express. I don't get who he is as a character. Um, so maybe that's what it is with me, that it's just not really clicking. Of course, FTR is FTR, of course, a very good tag team. I'm very happy that that they're being used for their skills and stuff like that. Jungle Boy, of course, is a star, but I think that him teaming up with Marco Stunt kind of holds him back a little bit. Him and Luchasaurus teaming up is always good. I just don't get Marco Stunt. After that, we had the NWA Women's Championship, Serena Deeb versus Tay Conti. They spoke to the Dark Order. I think it was before this match, and they mentioned what they're going to do, and they said that everything they do is going to be for Brody, and that's when they mentioned that they will be teaming up with Hangman Page, and of course Hangman shows up. They started giving him drinks, of course, and Hangman agreed to team up with them. So don't know if this is leading to Hangman joining the Dark Order or not. of course, a lot of people are wondering who the new leader would be. Truthfully, they don't really need a leader. They can just simply do what they said and just kind of do everything for Brody. And they can reference him as the exalted one and everything like that, and they do everything for him. And they kind of just keep his teachings and the ways that he wanted the Dark Order to run. Truthfully, you don't really need a leader. I mean, you could say like someone to oversee the Dark Order to make sure they're following what Brody Lee would want. Maybe Evil Uno, because he was kind of the right hand man from the get go. Because that's what Evil Uno was actually at first. He was the person. He was like quote unquote somewhat of a leader before Brody Lee came along. So he can kind of like oversee the Dark Order and kind of make sure people stay in line of what it is that Brody Lee wants. But you don't really need a leader. But we had Tay, who of course is good friends with Anna Jay. They come out together. So I don't know if she is, actually with the Dark Order. It don't really seem like it. I'm just confused at why is the NWA Women's Championship defended and seen more than the AEW Women's Championship? That's my question. I mean, the way that they featured the NWA's Women's Championship and hold all these matches on their pay-per-views and AEW Dynamite, like, I don't get it. You have your own title. You have your own champion. No one's going after the champion except for Abaddon. But no one's going after the champion. Everyone wants to fight for the NWA Women's Championship. I don't get that. But Conti was really good. I do appreciate though, because the women that are coming from NWA are, more of a veteran, have more experience in the ring than some of the women in AEW. And like I always said, the women's division definitely needs to get better. I'm very happy that they have Conti. She was pretty good in NXT. I had liked her in NXT, but for whatever reason, they decided not to keep her, and now she's in AEW, and she's pretty good too. And like I always said, Anna Jay is really good as well. But the thing, I don't know what it is with AEW. Like, it's to the point that I don't know if Tony Khan just doesn't like women's wrestling or something like that, where, when every single time the women have a match on AEW, there's like this big ass commercial break in the middle of it. And whenever you have a commercial break in the middle of a match like that, you kind of lose the momentum for the match. People tend to, get up, walk away, not really pay too much attention to it. And so that's what happened with this matchup. So, and like I always say, for them to put all this energy into this AEW heels and wanting women to feel, to be in a community and stuff like that, need to definitely put that energy into your women's division. Why try to create a platform for us female wrestling fans if you're not going to give us any type of actual representation when it comes to your company? Especially if you're sitting here saying you want to be an alternative to WWE. WWE's main roster division is better than AEW's women's division. At least, even though AEW just doesn't know how to handle storylines, at least there's matches, and at least they're trying hard with some of the matchups and the feuds and stuff like that. With AEW, the last time, I mean, they have this feud, a bit of a storyline with Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, which still seems a bit out all over the place. And there's somewhat of a storyline with Shida and Abaddon, but it don't make sense because they have Shida somewhat afraid of Abaddon, even though they fought each other before, and Shida had defeated her. But for some reason, AEW isn't really doing too much with feuds for their women's division. And I mean like long-term feuds. So after that, actually I'm skipping something. There was this segment that I don't know if it was after this, if it was after this match or something, but it was this segment called The Waiting Room with Britt Baker and Reba, and their special guest was Cody Rhodes. And this segment was all over the place. I wasn't feeling it. It was very disorganized. You can clearly see that it was in the arena, which I'm confused at, because if you're in an arena, normally there's a backstage area where you're not in front of the fans, and you can actually pre-record this segment. You don't really need the live audience to record a segment like this, because you can clearly see that they were in some type of cardboard setup, because you can see the Titantron at one point, and the camera kind of pans where they're supposed to walk through a door for the waiting room, and you can see that they could have actually walked around the damn door because it was like a very short segment. I was confused when I was watching it because I don't know if this was supposed to be a serious segment or if this was supposed to be something silly. The mics weren't working. It seemed like Britt Baker didn't really know what questions they're asked or what to say. When Cody Rhodes came in, he kind of was like looking for a mic or something, or the mic that he had wasn't working. And then, so this was mainly the setup. Cody Rhodes was there, and they brought in Jade. I forgot her last name, but they brought in Jade, and ooh, that woman got muscles, yo. She's built almost like China, yo. Of course, she comes in. She mentions, Brandy is pregnant. She comes at Cody Rhodes and things like that. And then she mugs him. And then in comes Velvet Sky, who looks like a toddler compared to Jade. And so they fight and everything. Britt Baker's looking confused. That segment was a hot mess. And I was like, I'm not feeling this at all. And then it randomly cuts to Britt Baker attacking Thunder Rosa on the Titantron, and then Britt Baker was like reacting to it, and then Thunder Rosa come on the screen and cuts a promo against Britt Baker. It was a hot mess, yo. I would have to say that probably was the worst segment I've seen in AEW. And I'm really thinking of other segments that would have been worse than that. But I would have to say that was the worst segment that I've seen in AEW. That was very unorganized, and that felt like that was written by the Raw team last minute too. Because that was a hot mess. It really was. So coming back to the main event, it was Darby Allin versus Brian Cage, and this was for the TNT Championship. Now, this was a pretty good match. Darby Allin, of course, showing his high-flying skills. Brian Cage showing his dominance. Darby Allin was going after, I think he was going after the legs of Brian Cage. Of course, Darby Allin wins the match, but of course we had Taz, we had we had we had Starks ringside as well, and I think we had Hobbs over there as well. I'm not 100% sure if he was over there. But of course they started to interfere in the match. And then after Darby Allin had retain his title. The Ricky Starks started to no, this is actually during the match. I'm sorry. Ricky Starks was interfering in the match, and then Sting comes out. Of course, Sting had his bat. I think he hit Ricky Starks with the bat, and so Sting was standing alongside with Darby Allin, staring down Team Taz as the show goes off. And this is very exciting because, we get it's Sting teaming up with Darby Allin, not Sting appearing and cutting a weird ass promo about how Darby Allin has been disrespecting people and then saying, I want to challenge you for your TNT championship, which is what we're getting with Goldberg. But like I said, I'm fine with Sting using his popularity to put over Darby Allin. Because Darby Allin, he's really good. He is who needs to be champion. He's who needs to be champion because AEW needs to promote their own stars. It really shouldn't be a Cody and Friends show. It really shouldn't be the who's who from WWE. I mean, you have to bring out your own names, or else you're just going to be nothing but WCW 2.0. So going into NXT, this was the first round for the Dusty Rhodes Classic. We also got some other matchups as well. Overall, this was a pretty good show. So starting off, we had Candice LeRae going against Shotzi Blackheart. Shotzi Blackheart is a superstar, I have to say. The feud between Shotzi and Candice LeRae has been going on for a while now. So it looks like this is going to continue on until the next NXT takeover, which is occurring next month on Valentine's Day. We had Indy Hartwell, who was ringside with Candice LeRae, and of course she was allowing distractions. She was, providing distractions so that Candice LeRae can get the advantage and eventually helped her get the win as well. So I'm fine with Candice LeRae getting the win. Of course, this is going to be nothing but Shotzi Blackheart playing the underdog to win the feud overall. After the match, Shotzi Blackheart wanted to enter the Dusty Rhodes Women's Classic, and she is apparently teaming up with Amber Moon. So eventually, at some point, we might get Blackheart and Amber Moon versus Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. Who knows? After that, we had one of the first round of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic with the Grizzled Young Veterans versus Ever Rise. This was a pretty good match, very fast paced and everything, but it seems like Ever Rise just can't catch a break. So the Grizzly Young Veterans won the match here. And they continue to go on, but I don't know. I don't know if Ever Rise came from another promotion. I never really looked into that, or if they were actually put together by NXT. But I feel like Ever Rise is kind of missing something. Really, is something that's not clicking with me with Ever Rise. So I don't know if they're new as a tag team to kind of like get things together, or if I don't know. So after that, we get Johnny Gargano versus Dexter Loomis. Johnny Gargano had Austin Theory by his side, ringside as well. And before the match, Dexter Loomis had drew a picture of Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory, and Johnny Gargano was very upset at the pictures. And so this was another hard-hitting match as well. Loomis, he is like a serial killer version of Stone Cold, especially when he had the House of Horrors, the haunted house match that he had with Cameron Grimes. He has such a unique look. I mean, he can definitely, if he wants to get into acting, he can definitely play a serial killer or something like that. Like, I'm not talking about serial killer like SVU. I'm talking about some horror slasher type of situation. Because he has a very unique look. This match, Austin Theory, of course, was causing, just like with Indy Hartwell, causing a lot of distractions and actually helped Johnny Gargano to get the win. The way that the match ended, it was very unique. Oh my gosh. I think it was something like Loomis had Austin Theory or something like that, and Johnny Gargano went to powerbomb him or something like that, and so Austin Theory went flying, and Johnny Gargano was able to roll up Dexter Loomis to get the pin. And then after the match, Gargano and Austin Theory started attacking Dexter Loomis, and then Kushida ran in because he is after the North American Championship and is after Johnny Gargano. He comes in and starts attacking Johnny Gargano while Dexter Loomis was attacking Austin Theory ringside. So after that, we get another first round matchup for the Dusty Bros Tag Team Classic. We had Jake Atlas and Isaiah Scott versus MKS. And I was very confused because I was like, I could have sworn Jake Atlas and Isaiah Scott was feuding each other. They had so many matches against each other. And I was very confused how they randomly decided to come together to team up. But I was like, okay, it's the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. They have a tendency of just throwing people together. They were going against MSK, who they didn't show the photos of who they look like. So I kind of figured it was going to be the two people from the Rascals from Impact, which it was. And I still feel bad for the Rascals because it was a team of three and they're separated, very similar to the New Day. And I think the story with the third one was that WWE decided not to take him, and so they had to be separated. But I felt bad for them. But when I was watching NXT a little more often, I was able to really check out the Rascals, and they were definitely really good in my book. But when they come over as MSK, I mean, they had the high flying stuff, but I felt like that they weren't like really at 100% either. But the biggest thing that I was still confused about was Jake Atlas and Isaiah Swerve Scott. And the commentators really didn't know how to describe their moves because when they did what looked like was a finisher, I forgot who said it. They mentioned MSK, and then when Beth Phoenix went to do a recap, when they showed the finisher, she said that move or this move or something like that. So it felt like NXT wasn't really ready for MSK. So I guess we'll see as we get to see them a lot more often as to how it's going to play out and everything. But they were very hyped up for as far as MSK. After that, we had Xia Li versus somebody. They didn't even give this person a name. Of course, we saw the Mortal Kombat character once again. I don't know if it's a man or a woman still. But a very cool entrance. We had Xia Li looking so good. I don't know what it is. Like I always say, whenever they decide to turn a woman heel, she gets like 20 times hotter, and that's what's going on. And then I forgot the guy's name. Boa, looking like an extra from oh my gosh, I done messed up my own joke. He looks like an extra from the Matrix. Damn, the movie title escaped me there for a second. I blanked out. Um, but yeah, he was looking like an extra from the Matrix. This was a very quick match. She hit like she like punched her and then did the spinning kick, and then the match was over. And then afterwards, she was going up the ramp, and then the Mortal Kombat person did the Dark Order hand. I don't know if anybody caught that, but it looked like she did the dark hand signal. And then Xia Li had went and attacked this nameless person some more, had her up on the ropes, hanging off the apron, kicked her a couple of times. I think she punched her too. But it's like, okay, we got it. Xia Li is very dominating. I think from the first match she had, like she don't feel pain or something weird like that. I don't know. But I'm wondering, okay, we get it. You know, she's very dominant, very strong. All the training from the vignettes that we've seen has paid off. Now what? What's her feud? Who is she going against? Because you know it's all good and all, but if we don't know what we're doing with Xia Li, what's the point of all this? What is the point with the Mortal Kombat character? What's the point of Boa, aka Mini Neo or something like that? And what's the point of Xia Li having this? I can take pain. So I don't know. And then we come to the main event, the Undisputed Era versus Breezango. This was another first round match for the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. This was a very good match. I have to say, this match was the match of the night. Breezango is a pretty good tag team. I know that there are people who tend to crap on them. Yes, they weren't that good when they were on the main roster because it was more comedy and everything. But I mean, we all loved them when it came to the Fashion Files and stuff like that. I remember definitely when they were doing the Fashion Files, it was like the best thing going on SmackDown. Which, of course, WWE stopped after a while. But now that they're in NXT, they are a lot more better in the ring as a tag team because they're not really doing much outside the ring. So this was a pretty good matchup. Of course, the Undisputed Era, no matter who teams up with who, they're a very good faction, a very good tag team, and Breezango was right there with them. It was a lot of back and forth between them, and then of course, towards the end of the match, the three members of the Kings of NXT, Pete Dunne, Oney Larkin, and Danny Burch, had started attacking Kyle O'Reilly, who is still dealing with his injury with his jaw, and they pulled Kyle O'Reilly up towards a pillar, and his face was facing towards Pete Dunne, who was going to kick the shit out of him first off. And then Finn Balor comes out with the save. And I forgot Finn Balor had opened up the show too. He opened up the show to say whoever is going to go after him and his title to show up. And Pete Dunne showed up actually. And he showed up with Oney Larkin and Danny Burch, and they attacked Finn Balor, and it was actually Kyle O'Reilly and the Undisputed Era who came out and made the save. And then, of course, everybody started chanting "Too Sweet" and all this other stuff because, you know, Bullet Club or whatever. And so this kind of came full circle, which was a very cool, little bit of a storyline thing there. Finn Balor came out and made the save for Kyle O'Reilly. Adam Cole was able to super kick Fandango to get the win, so the Undisputed Era moves on in the matchup. I thought at first Undisputed Era was going to lose with this distraction and everything, because when I was looking at the brackets, I was trying to see who would be in the finale. So I kind of figured maybe it would be the Undisputed Era versus Imperium, maybe. But now that once I saw that, this little situation with Finn Balor and Pete Dunne, Larkin, and Birch, I figured, okay, they're going to lose the Tag Team Classic because they're going to go on to go after the Tag Team Championship again. But it looks like no, the Undisputed Era continues on to the next round, and that be that. I did feel a bit bad for Breezango that they were going against the Undisputed Era, because I was like, dang, they should have been put somewhere else so they could at least got through the first round. And we got to see Breezango a little bit more, but, it's the Undisputed Era. Can't really, the only way that they would have won is if what was happening here with the distraction that was happening ringside. But NXT was a very good match. Between all three shows, NXT was the best. Then comes AEW Dynamite. And then, of course, Raw was last because it was absolute trash. Coming up, we got SmackDown coming out. We're going to have Nakamura versus Jay Uso. From what happened last week, a lot of people were upset with Nakamura. Nakamura not getting the win in this gauntlet match. But people fail to realize Nakamura is a face now. He's no longer heel. Maybe he's going to change his music back so that we can all sing to that bitch. But Nakamura is a face because of the Tribal Chief. So we should all be thanking the Tribal Chief for what happened. But, nope. Everyone is so concentrating on the fact that Nakamura had lost the matchup. I say let the story play out. Of course, we're not going to... I highly doubt we're going to get Adam Pearce versus Roman Reigns. If we do, let it play out. There's a whole storyline going on here. But we saw Daniel Bryan versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And yes, Adam Pearce is going to get a title shot. People not realizing a lot of the producers for WWE actually used to be wrestlers. So it's not like, it's not like they then took someone like Earl Hebner or something like that and decided to put them in a matchup. Like Adam Pearce used to be a wrestler. Alas, he didn't wrestle for a long time, but neither did Edge. And Edge came back and was really good in the ring. So I'm letting the story play out. Let's see what happens with Adam Pearce and Roman Reigns. I mean, with Roman Reigns, I mean, you disrespect his family, you disrespect him, and so it is. And then we had the Dirty Dogs, who won the Tag Team Championship, which was a little bit surprising, but I guess not so surprising since Montez Ford was injured. So I really shouldn't be surprised. And then we had Big E going against Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental Championship. It ended in a double pin, and they decided to restart the match, which I don't get why we did that. If you wanted to do the spot where Big E gets smacked and then he gets serious, you could have just straight up did that spot without the double pin. You could have had, a near pinfall or something like that. Apollo Crews could have got a 2 count pin on Big E. Big E starts laughing or something like that. And then we could have had the spot of Apollo Crews saying, that's mine, that's mine, your title belongs to me, and then slap him. And then Big E gets serious. But, we had to do what we had to do. But coming up tomorrow for SmackDown, we have Rey Mysterio going against King Corbin. From what I've seen somewhere, Nakamura versus Jay Uso. And then we're going to have a contract signing of Roman Reigns and Adam Pearce. So we're going to get Roman Reigns on the mic, which you can give me that all day. Roman Reigns on the mic. Explain to people how they're being disrespectful. And they're in the island of relevancy. And that they should be thanking the tribal chief for making them relevant. So Roman Reigns is making Adam Pearce relevant. I think we're going to get Shinsuke Nakamura coming out in this one. Like I said, let it play out. Maybe Shinsuke is actually the person going against Roman Reigns for the title at Royal Rumble. Or this could be a longer program where he's going against Roman Reigns for the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Or if they're crazy enough, this can last to WrestleMania. Which I highly doubt. I don't think this is going to last to WrestleMania. But I think they're going to have this last into the either Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber match. But let everybody calm down. Everybody calm down, though, with Shinsuke. Roman Reigns isn't losing the title anytime soon. He's the tribal chief. We should let him have the title. I don't want to give a timeline, but we should just let him have the title because it's the tribal chief. This is the best Roman Reigns we have gotten in years. Let's just enjoy it right now while it lasts. But that's it for the Wrestlebread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Let me give some shout outs. Shout out to Julian Rob Bass from the Wrestling Court podcast and UnchartedMinds.com. Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show. Chris from We Talk Next podcast. Nando and Larry from Half K podcast. Devin Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling, and subscribe to their YouTube channel as well. And my boys over at Powerbomb Jitsu as well. Coming out next week, I will be live again next Thursday to recap Raw, AEW, and NXT as well. We are getting closer to the Royal Rumble. I will be putting out a special episode the week before the Royal Rumble, just recapping the best matches of the Royal Rumble. I might even do the worst matches as well of the Royal Rumble. So if you want me to review a match that you are interested in, you can either tweet your favorites. You can tweet at me at Jaydee Talks, that's Jayde Talks, or the podcast at Wrestlebread. You can also find the podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcast as well. If you go to either of the Twitter pages, you'll see a Linktree link, and you will find all the links on there where you can find the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, especially if you're listening live. If you're listening to this in a recording, thank you so much for listening. Something I forgot to get, this is episode 93. I'm coming up on episode 100, and the past 93 episodes, it's been such a blast just conversating and getting to know people. It's a bit hard. It was a bit hard starting out as a solo podcast because you don't really have someone to bounce things off of, or if you forget to say something, you don't have someone kind of reminding you and things like that. But it's been a blast, interacting with people and talking to people about wrestling and stuff like that. I have a few ideas for what I'm trying to do for episode 100. The podcast also turns 2 in April as well, a week after WrestleMania, which is crazy. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I actually hit pretty much a milestone. In December, I had the most listens in a month. I almost hit 500 listens, which is crazy in itself. And even this month, it looks like I'm going to hit over 500 listens, which is crazy because I was sitting there really like, is it a bot that's listening to these episodes or something? but I know it's you guys listening to these episodes, and I really thank you guys for listening. Truly, 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 it is a pleasure to talk about wrestling with you guys. So, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, guys, peace.